Okay, so in front of me or on your screen is that great map of Mexico in 1824. Um, and what's going to happen is the Mexican Constitution of 1824 is going to create the state of Coahuila y Tejas with Saltillo as the capital. And this is a very, very important moment. It's something you know, which you should know. You will be tested on it. So 1821, Texas becomes part of Mexico, and in 1824, you have the Mexican Constitution is written, and Texas, the province of Texas or the district of Texas, becomes part of the largest state in the New Mexican Republic, which is Coahuila y Tejas, with the capital down here in Saltillo. This is going to be a very significant in the fights between the Americans coming into Texas and Mexican officials, because Saltillo, even today, Saltillo, actually, it's a super quick. Um, if you get on a plane and go to Saltillo, you probably go to Monterey, really, but you can get to Saltillo or the area very, very quickly, like an hour or something like that. But to drive, it's still a significant drive. And, in the 1820s and 1830s, this is the cotton growing area of Texas here. Saltillo is just on the other side of the moon. And so the Anglos that are in Mexican Texas don't like the fact that the state capital is so far away. The other thing is that the uh, Texas, the Senate of the legislature of this big state, Coahuila y Tejas, it's made up of 12 members. Texas only has one representative in this legislature, so Texas doesn't have much of a voice in the Coahuila y Tejas legislature. Now, again, there's really, even though the population of Texas is more than it ever had been, it's still pretty small. I mean, by 1836, it's only 36,000. So it wasn't unreasonable that it only had one representative out of the 12 in the state legislature of Coahuila. But nonetheless, the Anglos that have come into Texas are very unhappy about this situation. And one of the big fights that's going to occur, and it's actually going to lead to the Texas Revolution, is Texas, the Texans, the Anglos in Texas, and also the Tejanos. They want to be carved off from Coahuila, and they want Texas to be a standalone state. They don't want Texas to be basically a sub-district of a larger state, Coahuila, Tejas. So know this. This is super important. It's very, very significant to our story. Now, I'm just going to do a little digression here, and move away from slavery just briefly. By 1823, Stephen F. Austin, very, very he knew what he was doing. In many respects, an impressive person, organized. He'd been a judge. He's someone that has pretty much has his act together. He's getting these American families. He's advertising in the United States. He's saying about how great Mexican Texas is. That he's trying to persuade Americans that they should. He's putting, like I say, he's putting advertisements in newspapers, and he talks about how rich the land is in Texas, how perfect it is for growing cotton. The land in Texas is much cheaper than land in the United States, which is a tremendous inducement as well. And also, if you came into Texas, if a male came into Texas with his wife, then or children, they received additional acreage than if they just came in alone. The whole idea is, the reason the Mexican government agreed to allow Austin to bring in settlers was they want to populate Texas, so they want families to come into Texas, not just single males. The other thing is Stephen F. Austin was kind of picky. Not anybody could come into Texas. You kind of had to show that you had some resources. And so, so Austin, he's advertising, he's gathering in people with resources. He's trying to bring in solid citizens into Mexican Texas. And what he promises Mexico is that these solid citizens will become Roman Catholic. They're almost all Protestant. They'll become Roman Catholic. Of course, they don't. They'll learn the Spanish language. Most don't. And that they'll become loyal Mexican citizens, which they don't. But anyway, those are the promises that Stephen F. Austin made. The issue, I'm not going to go into it in to a great degree, but one of the big issues is that most of the Americans that are coming into Texas are Protestant, and Mexico's Roman Catholic, which it still is today. Of course, there's a lot of Protestants in Mexico today as well, especially evangelical. But there was a huge divide between Roman Catholics and Protestant in the 1820s in a way that we can hardly even imagine in 2023. It was, yeah, there was a lot of tension between Roman Catholics and Protestants, and this is going to be an issue. It's one of the things that makes a lot of Americans hesitate to come into Mexico, these promises that they had to become Roman Catholic, although most don't. Okay, so I'll send it, but he is successful in bringing in families, the so-called old 300. The first 300 families are kind of the Mayflower of Texas. They're the first to come into Texas. The first families that come into Texas, of course, they're bringing in, they're enslaved with them. 1 out of 4 of the population of the Austin colony are slave. So slavery from the very beginning is absolutely central to the settlement, the Anglo-American settlement of Texas. Anybody that can is bringing in their enslaved. And again, cotton equals slaves, slave equal cotton. I really can't say it enough. So the land's cheap, and it's so if you're an American wondering about Texas, here are the enticements. The land's much cheaper than it is in the U.S. That's an enticement. It's virgin land. You can grow cotton. That's an enticement. Here are the things that aren't so great about it. You have to become Roman Catholic. Well, they're going to ignore that. And Americans aren't really sure that Mexico is going to guarantee the existence of slavery because most of Mexico is anti-slavery. So, there's a lot of reluctance, even though Americans come into Texas, there is actually a lot of reluctance among white Americans with slaves to come into Texas. So it was not really an easy call because, again, they're coming into a foreign country with a foreign language, with a foreign religion, with different attitudes about slavery. So here's the digression that I wanted to talk about in a second. One of the features of Stephen F. Austin, and so he comes in, and as I've said before, one of the reasons the Mexican government allowed the Americans into Texas was they wanted to grow the population and fight Comanches. It doesn't really happen that way because most of the folks that settle in Texas settle outside the Comancheria. But the one group that Stephen F. Austin actually leads raids against are our old friends, the Karankawa. The Karankawas attack some of the members of the Austin colony because they settle near Karankawan territory. So Austin leads an expedition, and he basically wipes the Karankawa almost into extinction. So the Karankawa who we met in week 1, who we met with the Vaca, who he settled with. We saw them again with La Salle. They were very unfriendly to La Salle. The end of the Karankawa, basically, I mean, some Karankawa do survive, but the effective end of the Karankawa happens in the 1820s when Stephen F. Austin and his settlers basically exterminate the remnants of the Karankawan that still survive in Texas.